Tonight on America's Hope, we take an unusual look at October 7th and the men who served on the front lines as paramedics through Magen David Adom and how they helped save lives and how they're still helping to save Israel and Gaza. America's Hope starts now. From the NTD Global Headquarters in New York, I'm Kelly Wright, and this is America's Hope. Good evening, and thank you for joining us this hour. I'm glad that you could be a part of this program as we bring you more hope, this time from the other side of the world in a place known as Israel. And, of course, Israel has been in the news quite a bit because of what's going on with its war against Hamas. That all unfolding and transpiring after that October 7th terrorist attack by Hamas on Israeli people. And it's been going on since then. There are still people being held hostage, and there's still the cry for brokering peace in the Middle East. But let's face it, Israel still faces a lot of enemies, not only from Hamas, but even Hezbollah to the north, the Houthi rebels as well, Iran, the list goes on. But tonight, we're going to drill down and show you what happens when people can come together and save lives. The two men we're going to introduce to you tonight are paramedics through an organization called Magen David Adom, and they have done incredible, remarkable work to save lives as well as bringing healing to the nation of Israel and showing a way forward of how people from all faiths and all backgrounds can and must get along. And you'll see tonight that it's really the power of coming together, the power of finding unity. It's actually in the blood. Let's get started. Welcome back to America's Hope. I have been focused on a lot that's been taking place in Israel since October 7th. And having traveled to the country in March and April of this year and meeting people who are related to hostages who are still missing, people who lived through the attack on Kibbutz Be'eri as well as Sderot and other kibbutzim throughout the region, it is still heartbreaking to see what the Israeli people are going through as they try to find a way to peace as well as to reduce or actually cut out the threat altogether from Hamas. And in the interim, a lot of people have been injured, a lot of people have been wounded, and many people have been killed on both sides. And there are people at work, hard at work, to make sure that they are rescuing people and providing the best kind of help and support as possible. One organization is Magen David Adom, and that is an organization that's really providing a lot for Israelis' emergency services system. It's a leader in mass casualty response and noted throughout the world. It transports nearly 1 million people to hospitals every year. It collects, provides safety tests, and distributes nearly all the blood to Israel's hospitals, and through its affiliation with the Red Cross movement, responds to disasters around the world. And it's really a great organization, and someone representing them is Aryeh Myers. He has more than 20 years of frontline EMS experience, and after working as a paramedic in London for 10 years, he moved to Israel in 2012 and joined Magen David Adom, and he served a decade there as a senior paramedic and trainer for MDA before moving to its International Relations Department in 2022. Aryeh joins me now. Aryeh, it's good to have you on America's Hope. Thank you for joining us from Israel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for welcoming me.
You know, your background, going back to October 7th, 2023, you and your wife, Sippy, you're the parents of 4 children. And on October 7th, Aryeh, you were called into Ashkelon to treat a range of injuries taking place during that October 7th attack led by the brutal terrorist regime known as Hamas. Explain to me what you saw then, because there were a lot of, you were experiencing a lot of rocket fire that day. Is that correct?
Absolutely. The rocket fire began across the whole country at about 6:30 in the morning. And the response from Magen David Adom was instantaneous. As soon as we understood the significance of this event, we made sure within the first 15 minutes of the war, we made sure that every single one of our ambulances, our emergency vehicles was manned. One of the amazing things about our organization, we are the national EMS organization. We're mandated by the Israeli government to provide EMS and blood services to the whole of the state of Israel. And one of the amazing things about this organization is that 90% of our workforce are actually volunteers. So whilst we have 3,000 paid employees, we also have 30,000 volunteers, ranging in age from 15 and up, even people in the 80s and 90s, even if they're not providing first aid on the streets, but they're certainly helping with whatever they can. And as soon as the war began, many of those volunteers, along with our staff, were called on into duty, manning ambulances, intensive care units, running the blood services, phlebotomists, everything that needed to happen within the first few minutes and hours of the war was undertaken. Like I said, there was an immediate response, sending teams down to the south of Israel. And I live in the center of the country, but during that day I was also sent down, as you said, to Ashkelon. And once we arrived there, we came under rocket fire on several occasions. One of the first calls I attended was a family, two parents, two kids, two little children, 4 and 2 years old, who'd been injured when a rocket fired by the Hamas terrorist organization hit their home, and we had to evacuate them to hospital, along with several other people that we treated in the 14 or so hours that I was in the south.
Mm. So you're experiencing all kinds of situations there, because the scenario is that there was a repeated volley of rocket fire, and in some areas Hamas actually came into villages, better known as kibbutzim, and they went into the city of Sderot, as I understand. And while I was there in Sderot, I actually spoke to a volunteer paramedic, and he also talked about how difficult it was to actually deal with the emergency response. And in Sderot, he actually saw the gun battle play out between Hamas and police in that region before the IDF came in. Did you experience anything like that in Ashkelon, knowing that the rocket fire was coming in? Did you have to run to take cover?
So on several occasions we had to seek cover. We ran into a street shelter on a couple of occasions, found shelter in buildings, in the hospital. Once we evacuated some casualties, just as we arrived at the hospital, there were red alerts, and a rocket actually hit a bridge that connects two different parts of the hospital called Barzilai in Ashkelon. While we were there, luckily we were in a secure area. But like you mentioned, many of our teams, our EMTs and our paramedics, faced live fire by the terrorists. Unfortunately, we lost a number of members of staff on that first day. 14 of our ambulances were destroyed. Another 2 were actually taken by the terrorists into Gaza, where they were destroyed in there as well. And it was an almost impossible situation to face. We had bulletproof ambulances. We have about 24 of those across the country, and about half of those were in the south, with paramedics and EMTs performing heroic things, going into Sderot, as you mentioned, where the terrorists were there, into the different kibbutzim, evacuating casualties, either directly to hospital or to rendezvous points that we'd set up in a number of locations across the south, whether that was in the towns, whether it was in Magen David Adom ambulance stations, whether it was at major junctions. Wherever it was, we made sure that we had teams, we had staff, and we were using technology to be able to locate those casualties as well, in order to be able to reach them as fast as we possibly could. And then we evacuated in the first 24 hours of some 1,000 casualties of the war, injured by rocket fire as well as by terrorists directly, with our teams running into the fire to do whatever they could to rescue as many people as they could.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far of America's Hope. If you'd like to see it in its entirety, just click on the link below. Thanks for watching.